Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Hello, Globetrotters. Virtual and actual Globetrotters, that is. Yeah, we take care of both types here. Welcome back. Welcome to your home right here at Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson, a place where you can kick off your shoes, flop down into your comfy spot on the couch and be completely at ease while we top up your brains with the latest news of the future. And here he is with a pair of worn-out legs and a second-hand pair of shoes indeed. Welcome to the microphone, Matthew Dickerson. Matt, you've been covering quite a bit of territory yourself in recent weeks.
I have, and I have been missing you, James, so it's good to see you again. I've been thinking about you while I've been working very
nice
hard.
To be thought of.
That's right, in Ballie actually this time. But I do love the fact that wherever you go in the world now, it seems to me that you can keep doing whatever you were doing, whether it be your mobile phone technology, your internet technology, but even just deliveries, the Uber equivalents, it's called Grab in Ballie, for example, getting food deliveries, all these things that rely on some sophisticated technology. Technology is so transportable. In the past, you might have enjoyed a fast food at a franchise, for example, but then you might go to a country where they haven't gone and built out that particular fast food. But with technology, it seems to me that it's very easy to pick that technology up and drop it into, well, just about anywhere.
Any situation, almost any
That's
situation,
right.
yeah.
And I love how it's...
There's got to be a spot in the Amazon rainforest where you can't use it, but...
Maybe. I've been along the
Sahara,
Nile and
Middle
still... Well, maybe the Sahara, but even along the Nile, many years ago I went along the Nile and I still found that things work pretty much the same as they normally worked on there.
Go. Everyone needs to be connected.
They do. And I love how it's very much localised. So, for example, in Ballie, if you wanted to get somewhere from A to B, sure, you could get the Uber equivalents in a car, but they also did that on bikes, so on scooters, because there's so many scooters running around the streets because it's fairly congested, then you could just jump on the back of a scooter as part of that ride if you were game, if you felt like that. But even just simple things, I find now that internet technology is good enough that if you want to keep working away in a local environment, it's pretty easy to create a VPN back to your own network. It's pretty easy to keep working at reasonable speeds. And I remember years ago when I used to travel a bit, I'd find that you'd go somewhere and it was a bit of touch and go as to whether you could actually connect at a reasonable speed or connect back to what you wanted to work on. But now internet speeds just about everywhere are pretty good. Or the roaming, depending on who you might roam with. Again, in the past, if you used any data at all, you would run up an horrendous bill.
Yeah, I remember. 2012 I was in Ballie and, the data that we just churned through was crazy.
It was, and I do remember many years ago that I had to get a quote done for a major job and I had my data turned off, but I needed to get this quote through and the only way I could do it was to turn my data on my phone, and just to submit that quote that I needed to get through cost me about $50 in data charges. But I've got to do it. It was a big quote. I had to get it done. But now most companies, most Australian telcos do international roaming for $5 or $10 a day and you get a few gigs of data or even more than that sometimes. So it's not too bad in terms of that ability. And I kind of dream of the day when you don't even think about it. It's just you've got global roaming on your device and it just works wherever you go without even any extra charges. Or maybe it's just the plan you're on has just got that covered so you don't have to think about the borders you're on.
Well, surely we're not too far away from that right now, yeah?
Well, I almost say we're kind of there now. There's a small extra charge that you might pay. And so some people still get local SIMs, and I'll often do that with a local dongle where I'll get a local SIM for lots of data so that I'll use a bit of my data on my phone just for some simple things, email, looking up some things on the internet. But if I want to watch a movie, for example, then I want to have that dongle to be able to use it. And it also keeps my kids nearby because I find that if I carry the dongle around in my pocket, I usually keep my kids within about a 50-metre radius of me as we walk through places because they want to be connected to the Wi-Fi in my pockets.
Yeah, right. It's a nice way to keep your kids in check.
There's a tether there. There's a virtual tether there. But it is quite incredible. And when you think about what's happening, when you sit back just for a second and think about the technology that's involved for you to be able to just do your normal thing on a day-to-day basis, it's a huge amount of technology that allows you to just do what you want to do without having to think about it. So it's certainly changed. And I saw, it was unfortunately a murder documentary, I suppose I'd call it, that I watched a couple of years ago, but it was about an incident that happened back in the 70s, and this particular person was luring people into his lair and eventually murdering them, which is an unpleasant story. But people didn't know about the whereabouts of their children, their friends, their partners, whatever, because you'd go overseas and you'd say, I'll be in contact once a week, or maybe I'll be in contact once a month. And so much could happen in that time
that's right.
that it made it much easier for people who wanted to do bad things because they knew that person was out of contact for that time. Whereas now, if you wanted to check on, say, Find My iPhone where someone was, you could, no matter where they are in the world, and suddenly you go, hold on, why is it turned off? There's something wrong. I haven't heard them for a day, or I'll ring them now and I can't. So it's much harder to be a bad guy, which is good.
The other thing is there's that sense of urgency when you don't have it. And I remember going away and having my laptop. I needed my laptop because I was working on some projects. And my laptop died and I couldn't get it to work. And maybe it was because of, I can't even imagine why, but it just wouldn't work for me. And so I was down and out for a week and I actually had to disconnect myself. It was nice to disconnect myself, but it was hard.
Yeah. And I think people, and I'm sure lots of people out there will be absolutely horrified by this idea, but I have my biggest concern if I try and disconnect is that at some stage you're going to reconnect and then is it worth it? Is it worth what you've got to do when you reconnect?
Catch up.
Catch up. Oh my gosh. So I would rather stay connected and just do a little bit each day while I'm on holidays rather than go, I'll disconnect for a week and just enjoy life because I just come back and it wouldn't be worth it. It'll take me next month to catch up, I think. So I'm sure there's some law there, Dickinson's law, that says for every day you miss out on something, it's 5 days to catch up. There we go. There's a new law for us.
All right, now in today's episode, we'll take a look at how modern computing may have a complete overhaul. Electron-driven microprocessors are just so 2020. And now we're all about streamlining your domestic environment and getting robots into your home as soon as possible. And some clever engineering is set to sort out the splashy mess in the men's room. And not a moment too soon, might I add. But let's kick off today with another story born from the Marvel Universe. It's actually a story that I feel that we've done before. I don't think that we actually have, though. In Tony Stark's Iron Man universe, he seems to constantly be scanning across his holographic marvels, swiping up and down, left and right over visual displays on transparent screens as just par for the course. Multifunctional smart glass technology seems like something that's been around for a number of years now, but I see that here it's just been showcased at an aircraft expo in Hamburg just this month. Matt, has Hollywood had me fooled all this time?
It is quite fascinating, actually, what we're doing with glass these days and putting things into glass, being able to change the colours of glass. I've told the story before about scaring one of my kids when we laid down going across Katoomba, across one of the great big drops, and of course the glass on the bottom can change from opaque to being able to be seen through.
Yeah.
And of course my daughter laying down there while it was opaque, and they flicked the switch and suddenly it was transparent and she looked down at a big canyon that looked like you were about to fall through there. But it's interesting now what we're putting on glass, and I did like the idea of actually combining a bit of augmented reality with the real world, and as a perfect example, looking out the windows on a plane. So we're flying, and again, the example, we've just come back from Ballie, and I know when we're flying into Ballie, the kids go, "Oh, Dad, look at that out there. What's that?" And I'd go, "I don't know, and I haven't got access to the internet now, so I'm lost." But imagine looking out through the glass on the side of a plane, being able to see what's there and actually having some sort of information, some sort of description. So that sounds pretty cool.
But has this technology been available in like fighter jets and stuff for a while?
So yes.
Am I making that up?
No. So you've had that ability to have information within glass. So there's a few things that glass can do now, which is quite clever. You can change the colour. You can change the opacity of it. You can make it, for example, a sunny day, you might want your glass roof on your car not to be so transparent because, let's face it, lots of sun's going to come through. So you've had the ability to change that. But then when you start to get a bit better and you start to combine information in that, so you might be able to just project your speed, for example. Now, you can do that with heads-up display, which isn't in the glass. It's projecting onto it. But you can have that built in, like you say, a fighter jet, even an aeroplane. And this particular company that was demonstrating this is called Zeiss. And they've been doing this with planes for a little while now. But it's been fairly expensive and fairly specialised. So you might put it in the cockpit, but not on every glass or every window throughout the entire plane, because that would seem like overkill. But it's getting so good now that you might consider putting it in every window in the plane.
Yeah,
you might consider putting it in the windows in a car or the windscreen of a car to have information there. So you start to just then leave it to the imagination. And that's what I like about this. We've got the technology. We know now we can actually have information displayed there. what can we do with that? What other exciting things could we possibly do with that information to really make not just a heads-up display, but an augmented reality heads-up display? Could it make it safer in a vehicle? Yeah, not sure if it would make it safer, make it more interesting, definitely. Give the kids something to look at out the side windows. But on a plane, I love that idea. But even on a plane, I'm one of those nerds that will often have display the speed we're going at, the distance above the earth, those sort of boring things in front of me rather than watching a movie. But imagine being able to look out the window and see other things. Imagine being able to look at the window and see, sometimes you'll see a little flash of a plane that might be flying along somewhere nearby. When I say nearby, it might be a kilometre away, but you can see it out there in the night sky. But seeing that,
you want to know where it's going.
I want to know where the plane's
where
going.
It's come from.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Is that one of those planes that you sometimes see planes that take off 5 minutes apart and land 5 minutes apart? Are they just following along beside us and having a little chat to the two pilots, or is that going somewhere completely different?
Doing semaphore through the window or something.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
So I just think all this information, we're getting better at it now. And even we talk about glasses that we have, potential glasses. Google had glasses before, Snap got glasses, Meta got glasses. Having that information available to you, it just seems like we've got so much access to information. Let's take advantage of what we do well. What we don't do well is retain and know lots of information.
We don't have to.
We don't have to anymore. That's exactly right. Having that information available to us and more accurate information, because our memory is a bit malleable. So we might go, oh yes, I know about that landmark over there. That had something happen in 1857, but it wasn't really 1857. It was 1827. And it wasn't quite the way you remembered it, but you've distorted a little bit. Whereas having the accurate information there about something you see at some landmark, I think that's all pretty exciting. So glass is getting smarter. There's no doubt about it. What we can do with glass is getting better. It just still seems expensive when we break glass. So whether that be on a phone screen or whether it be in windscreens, we just need to get that problem solved as well. Let's make it so it doesn't.
Well, I want
break
to know
so
when
easily.
I can install some of this glass in my shed, so I can have all the plans for what I'm, for the robot that I'm building, or the suit of armour that I'm building, and I can just be swiping left and right. And
Well, it happens in the movies, of course. You'll see someone with a big screen and they just wave their hand around and all these magical plans
that's what
appear.
I'm talking about.
That's what you want, isn't it? That seems reasonable. So it is quite fascinating. Watch out for that. Zeiss is just one company doing it, but keep an eye out for different glass in a whole range of different applications. And it really, to me, it just comes down to your imagination.
In an era where we all have unlimited library of music for our listening pleasure, right at our fingertips, on pretty much any phone available on the market, vinyl records simply will not take the hint and disappear into oblivion. Toshiba have readily acknowledged this technological anomaly and have produced an update for an old favourite, the portable turntable and speaker set. Matt, I already have a portable record player sitting on a shelf in the garage. It looks like it's in a suitcase, and I'm sure we had one as we were growing up as kids. I'm hoping that this new player makes a better sound than the tinny mono sound that traditionally squeaked out of those two contraptions. What's the sales pitch here?
Snap, crackle and pop is what I call vinyl records. I don't
See,
get
I didn't
it.
mind the snap, crackle and pop, but it was just like a weightless sort of sound behind it from those little sets I'm talking about.
Yeah, and this doesn't even have this. So it's a new Toshiba wireless portable record player, vinyl record player. Okay, so just to make that clear, a vinyl or vinyl, as some people like to call it, a vinyl record player. I just don't get it with vinyl. It's impractical to carry around records. They don't like movement at all.
They've got a good smell about them.
they smell good, well, especially when you take it out of the case the first
Freshly
time
out,
and you slide it out of the cover.
The sleeve, yeah.
But CDs came along and they seemed so much better. They were more robust. They didn't wear, because on a record, obviously, you've got a needle that's literally sitting in the groove, wearing away the groove every time you play that record. So it's wearing the record out. And of course, the needle gets worn out. You've got to replace that on a semi-regular basis. So that's impractical. Going to a different track, sure, it's better than a cassette player where you had to fast forward to the right spot. You can lift up the arm and move it across to another track.
Yeah.
But gee, that seems impractical. And just having the library of, you don't have to have many records to take up a lot of room in your lounge room, and they do snap, crackle, pop. So all of those problems, CDs came along, went fantastic. They've got a whole range of advantages, and then of course we've now gone streaming, but it's a bit of a trendy thing to do. So my daughter bought her boyfriend a record player, a Bluetooth record player that you plugged in, for a Christmas present. And then, of course, I had to go and buy some records. Like, how old-fashioned was this? So, mind you, can get records pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So Toshiba have said, well, this trend's happening, so let's get back to the old boombox days where you had the big cassette player on the shoulder and walked around. I don't know if it's quite that level,
Need
but
a headband and a puffy tracksuit. Yeah.
that's right, and some skates, some roller skates for wide with sound. So now you've got this portable record player. It's got a battery in there, 2,000 milliamp hour battery, 10 hours of playback. So you can take this down to, I don't know, the beach and kick some sand on the record. How would that go? How would that sound?
It sounds like a record playing nightmare on the beach there, but I'm sure they did it back in the 50s as well with one of those little tinny suitcase sets. But yeah.
And you want a good cover over the top of it so that the sand doesn't get all through it. But it doesn't even come with speakers, this one. So forget about your tinny speakers you're talking about. It's just got
paying for the turntable.
Well, you're paying for the turntable, and it's obviously Bluetooth, so you have whatever speakers you want. So that way you can have a little tinny set that are small and portable. But let's face it, the record player's not that small and portable, so there's not much advantage having small portable speakers. So you might as well have some bigger speakers, and they're driven by Bluetooth. So you'd buy, presumably, some battery-powered portable speakers of whatever quality you want. You buy this portable wireless record player, and then you turn up at your friend's party going, hey, here I am. I brought 10 records with me. I hope you like those albums. It just seems so impractical to me compared to, as you say, every song basically in your pocket, just about. And
one of the days. But I'm sure there are some Led Zeppelin fans out there, some Pink Floyd fans that say it's better on vinyl.
Well, I'm sure they say that, but I don't know. I can't tell the difference. And one of the things is when you're in an environment where you've got a bit of noise, some sort of environment, a party, out at the beach, whatever, you've got so much other background noise, unless you go to a perfect listening room, are you really getting the true difference between the record player and the streaming? One thing I do enjoy with streaming, I must admit, is we drive along in the car and I'll talk to the kids about a song. Just the other day, there's a Don McLean song that I love, which is a bit of a commentary on American society called Prime Time. You know, this is life, this is prime time, and away it goes about the American way. And I was telling them, and I was trying to describe it, and I couldn't remember all the words. I went, hold on a sec. So just jumped on our streaming platform of choice and said, give us Don McLean's Prime Time, and then we'll listen to the song.
Had the words there too.
Now the kids, exactly right. Now the kids mightn't love the fact that I can pull up songs from 30 or 40 years ago. Maybe that's not a great feature. But I do love the fact that you've got access to just about any song that you can think of. It's going to be there. Whereas a record player, oh, kids, this is a great song from Don McLean. I'll go home and look through my record collection. Oh, it's not there. I'll go and find a second hand. In a couple of weeks' time, I'll have this really cool song for you that you'll be able to listen to for 3 minutes and then go on with your life. So,
in the meantime, let me just tell you about the song.
That's right, and see if I can get it right.
Describe it for you.
And my malleable memory will get it completely wrong or maybe vaguely right. So it's quite fascinating. It's something that I don't see the trend going away, despite the fact that I don't get it.
Well, cassettes die to death. CDs die to death. Vinyl has not died yet.
It hasn't died. It's just incredible. So anyone that's out there that loves their vinyl, now you can go and buy a portable wireless record player from Toshiba. And who knows, maybe other manufacturers will jump on this as well.
Now, our male listeners are going to particularly identify with this story. A public urinal is, of course, hardly a place to hang out. They tend to get quite smelly if not cleaned regularly, and that's because splashback creates some pungent problems, you might say. Enormously unhygienic at the very least. It's a real problem, this doing number ones from a standing start is something the ladies may never understand. So some cluey engineers have taken it upon themselves to redesign the common urinal and restore some decorum to public male restrooms. Matthew, a bit of extra thought on fluid dynamics may save a lot of cleaning up.
Well, I do love the fact that this is a nice little university project for some researchers and some students. The basic urinal design has not changed since Marcel Duchamp's 1917 design.
Right.
So it's been around for more than a century. And
well, for the ladies who might not have spent much time in a male restroom there, you've either got the flat wall one or you've got this one that sort of sits on the wall with a bit of a cup. It's a shell.
Yeah, and I think we're really talking about the shell one. The flat wall one is basically pretty simple, isn't it? A bit of stainless steel, whack it against...
You're doing it on the wall, right?
That's right.
And people have
there'll be a lot of splashback
doing it on
there.
walls for a long time.
That's
yeah?
right.
There's no design there, no engineering, but the shell shape.
The shell shape, the porcelain shell shape
Yep.
to try and capture the urine as it comes out. Now, what's fascinating about this is that we think we're going to the toilet as males. cleanly, but the splashback problem is much greater than we realise. To give you an idea, in
Here
the
we go.
US,
Strap yourselves in, folks.
the research is scary, and the researchers, I want to give them some sort of award as well. Well done for their research. There's 56 million urinals in the US, so fair number there. But those urinals produce about 1 million litres of splashback every day.
1 million litres?
1 million litres of splashback. So that's some... I
A
thought
megalitre of splashback.
That's right. How many swimming pools is that? And then we've got to clean that up. So when I say we...
Not a one hit, but yeah.
I'm not doing it,
Someone
but
is.
people
yeah.
are doing it, and they consume 10 million litres of water in cleaning up those million litres of splashback. So it's actually an environmental problem as much as it's a bit of a disgusting problem as well. And I'm sure some of that splashback ends up on trouser pants or shoes as well.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So it's going a lot of places there that I'm sure mums and dads out there cleaning their kids' shoes are probably not loving. So the University of Waterloo said, let's address this problem. So they got some undergrad students and said, let's focus on fluid dynamics. They created a little squirter, a little water jet, and had some dye put in that, so they didn't have to get lots of volunteers to come in or watch you go to the toilet. There might be some interesting advertising around that one. So they did it with water jets to simulate urine and then watched where it went, and then basically worked out the angles the water hit the urinal at and what was the best angle for that urinal to be designed at, or what shape was best to actually capture that urine. So I love the fact that it's something that we do every day, well, males do every day, or females and males, but males probably don't, or females don't do it against a urinal.
All these ladies that complain about people splashing on the toilet and all this sort of stuff, so we're explaining a little bit more here, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly right. So we do this and we don't think about it too much, but obviously some people said, let's think about this. So I love that human ingenuity and that addressing a problem we didn't really know we had. I suppose we knew we had a bit of the problem, but we've never really thought about it being something that needs to be addressed. So what they found by redesigning the urinal is they could reduce the splashback by 98.6%. So that's getting pretty close to zero. Yeah. So you're getting almost no splashback.
So 10 megalitres of cleanup water.
Compared to...
Yeah, all right.
That's right. So that's the original amount. Then reduce that by 98.6%.
Yeah, wow.
So this whole idea was designed as a bit of a teaching tool for the students, but there's no reason that you couldn't actually take this. They've published their research, take this to a manufacturer, or a manufacturer use this concept and say, we've now got a splashback urinal. Now, it's a big job to replace 56 million urinals in the US and then multiply that across the world. In terms of that, that's probably, if you like, population of America, maybe 250, 300 million. So you've maybe got 1/5 of the world's population, the number of urinals. So you might say there's maybe 1.5 billion urinals out there based on the very quick, very rough mathematics there.
Some rough maths, but anyway.
But effectively, you've got a lot out there. So you're not going to replace all those in a day, but surely any new urinal, if I was installing new urinals in a location, if I was building something new or some sort of public facility, or I was replacing some, I'd say, well, maybe now the research is out there. Maybe I'll find someone to go and manufacture these now that we know the information. Now we've got the data to actually demonstrate this. But I'm sure some manufacturer out there will come up with their design and say, these are the new splashback-free urinals. I love the idea that research has been put into something that is seemingly a fairly common problem, but something that we've never really thought about addressing.
So a lot of fellas out there would have thought themselves that it's not a problem at all. No. But it quite clearly is.
Unless you're one of the cleaners. It's not a problem for the guys who aren't the cleaners, I suppose. So, but anyway, it's public toilet design, I think, is often overlooked, but maybe we should be looking at it a bit closer. And this team has done that. So there you go, a bit of interesting research. You can go and look at some of the designs. If you just go and search for University of Waterloo and look for their urinal models, then you'll find some interesting models in there. And again, the research backs up exactly what they've done.
Get stuck into it, folks. Do you ever feel like vegging out on the couch, but there's just nothing to watch on telly? Even with all the free-to-air channels and all the streaming services available, still, simply nothing really grabs you, no matter how long you scroll and flick for. That may be because you're searching titles instead of searching your feelings. Now, that sounds like some Jedi wisdom coming right there. Well, Netflix is teaming up with OpenAI to rescue you from this dilemma. And Matt, we may finally be ready to land on something worth watching.
The problem we have is there is so much content there now.
It's too much choice.
You could watch all the content 24 hours a day for 10 lifetimes and you still wouldn't get through all the content. So trying to get the right content, and sometimes it's based on Mary said she saw something, so go and watch it. Okay, that's great, but Mary's not the same as me. So Mary
and there's
might like
a
different
lot
things.
of crap out there.
There's a lot of stuff
that you might
isn't
have to
great.
sit through the first 5 episodes. Oh, no, gets great on the 6th episode. But you have to watch the first 5 episodes in order to understand what's happening. Like, oh, come on.
Give me something interesting from the beginning. And
Yeah.
I've seen that before. People say, I love this. And it's just a bit slow to get going. I don't have time for a bit slow to get going. I need it from
Just
day
get to the
one.
punchline. Yep,
That's right.
straight away.
Get into it. Give me the summarised version. So that's one potential issue. The other thing is that depends how you're feeling. So do you feel like watching shows similar to ones you've watched before? So often now with Netflix, for example, it will give you suggestions based on other shows that you've watched. Now, those other shows, firstly, might have been ones that people recommended, which you didn't like, but it's still got those as part of your viewing history. But the other thing is that you might have felt different that day. Maybe you feel a bit different this day. What do you feel like today? So that's where...
The feels are what it's all about, I've got to say.
That's right. So that's where AI has teamed up, or Netflix has teamed up with AI more accurately, and they've basically got to the point where you can just use natural language and say, I feel like something involving dogs and I want it to be happy. Or you might say, I want a murder mystery based on a real story, or whatever you feel like on that time. And then based on that, and sometimes the titles give you no indication
that's right.
about what you're going to watch. When you see a title and you go, what's that about? What is that? How does that possibly relate to what the show's about? Sometimes it's got no relation. You've got to know that. So you're not going to go and search for that title randomly because you don't know what it's about. So putting in that, now this is the great thing about this is only available in Australia and New Zealand, so they're running a trial at the moment.
There you go.
I remember many years ago when I used to do a lot more with Microsoft used to use Australia as a bit of a testing ground because A, we seem to be quite early adopters, but B, if they got it wrong, it wasn't a big enough market across the rest of the world that it had a major impact. Yeah. So maybe Netflix is using us in that way at the moment, going, well, let's try it out over there. And if it goes wrong, well, it doesn't really matter that much. If it goes right, we can employ that across the world. So at the moment, it's exclusive to iOS devices. So if you've got Apple TV or you're using an iPad or an iPhone to watch some Netflix on, then you can use it. And literally you go in and you type something as random as, give me something that makes me feel
like
good.
watching Smurfs in space, but as a love story.
That's right. And if there's one out there, I'm not sure if there is, but if there's one out there, it'll find that for you and give it to you. So people look in a whole range of different places now. I know one of my kids always goes to Rotten Tomatoes to find what the show is that they should be watching. So they look on those and put a lot of emphasis on that. Other people will go and just look for their recommendations on social media, TikTok, Facebook, whatever. So there's a whole range of different ways. But I do like the idea of just going, this is what I feel like watching right now. It's a Sunday afternoon. It's raining outside. I feel like a rom-com. Just give me a rom-com that makes me feel good, and it'll come up with a bunch of choices for you, and then away you go from there. So I actually think it should be compulsory for all movies and TV shows to have a 10-word title, so it gives you more information.
More information.
These titles have one word in them. It just doesn't tell me anything. I mean, White Lotus.
What's Jaws about?
That's exactly right. White Lotus. I watched White Lotus recently, and if I saw White Lotus, if I just saw the title, I'd think it was about a flower. Why not? A lovely flower that's coloured white.
There's
so
no descriptors in there other than that's something about white flowers, yes.
Exactly right. So give me information about it. There should be some. Can we mandate that now? Just make it compulsory. 10-word title. It's got to describe it so I can see that. Or I can
Have you watched
use
any White Lotus, by the way?
I have, yeah.
Is it worth watching?
It takes a little while to get going, James, but
No, okay, I haven't got time. Right.
yeah, so go and check that out. If you've got Netflix, go and have a look at how it feels to just choose a show based on how you're feeling today.
What gift do you give someone that already has everything? Maybe a personalised message from a favourite celebrity delivered via socials. The phenomenon became a thing in 2017, but it really took off during COVID when core business for most of the entertainers and sports people around the world shut down almost completely. A simple solution with a warm, fuzzy feeling for everyone all round. Now, in 2025, in a world where selfies are the new autographs, fans are still happy to shell out for a celebrity shout-out, Matt.
I think this is great. Something I've done in the past where I have actually got for a present, a birthday present or something special for people, I've actually managed to get someone that they're a fan of and get them to write a message for them or do something for them. But it's a hard...
But if it's written down, Did they really write
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point, James. They did.
Is it forged?
These ones were legitimate, okay? But
So anyone out there who's received a gift from Matt in the past where it was just a letter,
I guarantee, James, it's legitimate.
Okay, all right.
At least that's what the guy on the corner who sold me the signature told me. So I do like, but sorry, doing that is hard work. Chasing down someone, getting the right details for them, finding their agent, finding their publisher, whatever, and then finally getting there. And most celebrities are quite happy to do something for you if you get to that effort and get all that way. But not everyone's going to be as persistent as maybe as I've been in the past, and not everyone basically might go and do that process and get to that end game. So celebrities are doing it. They've been doing it for a little while, but it's really taking off at the moment, where they'll register themselves on a site. And I'll give you one brand name here, Swish, SWYSH is one, but there are many others out there. But basically, you can go onto Swish and you can search for a celebrity. It might be a particular name of someone you're after, or it might be a particular sport. And then you just basically say, can this person say this for me? Now, they're not going to say things that are racist or say blasphemous things or swear, but it's simple things like a birthday wish for James or happy anniversary or thanks for being a fan, whatever, something that's nice and simple, that's not going to offend anyone, but you pay a certain amount of money, and typically, depending on how big a celebrity they are, you pay a certain amount of money and they'll do that for you, and you've got that to give to your friend, loved one, to yourself if you like, whatever, what the heck. Now, they're not going to endorse a business. They're not going to suddenly because some of these celebrities only charge $22, for example, is about the cheapest I could find.
Yeah, right.
They're not going to charge $20 to endorse a business. So again, you've just got to be sensible about it, and you might get rejected if you ask for something that isn't appropriate. But it's really designed for just that personal little shout out, not designed to be used in commercial areas. Some of the ones I found, you go up to the other end, I found some were $605, so that's about the dearest I could find. Now, for that's not bad money for them. They get a message and it says, can you please say happy birthday to James? He turns 29 on the 1st of February. Happy birthday, James. Have a great day.
Convert that to dollars per hour.
It's
if
not
they've
bad,
done
is it?
that in 2 or 3 minutes,
That's
then
right.
multiply
and that's all it would be. And you're not expecting it to be a Hollywood production. You're expecting it to be personal. You want that. And for a random person, a friend of yours getting this from someone that they're a fan of, they go, oh, wow, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. How'd you do all that? Oh, don't worry about it. I went to all the trouble. It's all okay.
The assumption that they've now become friends with that celebrity.
That's right. Yeah, I'll go and follow. Remember me? You did a shout out to me. But isn't this the modern world? And that's why I thought from a technology perspective, the modern world that we live in now, here's a way that you can facilitate all of this technology around us. So as a user, you register on a site, you say, could I please get Billy Blogg's celebrity to give me a shout out? He gets a message, he or she gets a message on their phone.
I like Billy Blocks, by the way.
Yeah, he's not a bad guy. So.
Anyway, you were saying, yeah.
And then essentially that person can just use their phone to go and upload that. So the whole process is pretty seamless because of technology. And then you've got the electronic payment for all of that. That person gets it. The platform gets a bit of money along the way. So this wouldn't have been possible maybe 15 years ago. I'd say impossible. 10 years ago, difficult. Now, incredibly easy with the technology that we've got. So it's quite fascinating. So have a look out there. As I saw, when I looked for it, I saw sports stars, I saw movie stars, I saw a whole range of different celebrities. Something in the order of that one site I saw had about 30,000 different people on there. So there's just about everything you can imagine covered. I did search for you, but
so inundated with these birthday messages that you get rejected though. It's like, sorry, I haven't got time because I'm still too busy doing these birthday messages.
When's your birthday next week? I need more than a week.
5,000 people.
Right. But I'm sure if that happened, then they put their prices up. So the individuals, the $22 ones, if they get inundated, they'd probably go up a little bit. But even that, I don't mind the fact that someone...
Can you name the person who was $22?
Oh, I don't want to do that. I'll say the sport was a netballer, so maybe the netballer. But I found an AFL player for $28.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
fair enough.
I suppose it comes down to just how well known they are. But I also think someone that's going to put themselves on the platform for $22 knows they're not going to make a living out of it, knows they're not going to generate a huge amount of income. But I think that person basically is probably saying, you know what, I'm happy just to give back to fans, and sure, I'll get a little bit of money along the way, but I'm not charging an exorbitant fee.
That's right. To stay alive.
Yeah, that's right. So I think they're probably doing it from a nice perspective. But yeah, go and check it out. It's a pretty different sort of present. Sometimes people look for unique birthday presents. They go and do fighter jet flights, or they go and find crazy things for them. But this is not a bad personalised one.
Very cool.
Yeah, I did search for James Eddie on there. I saw you're not registered on that one yet.
Yeah, no. I'm not doing any birthday messages yet.
Right.
But my price is high.
Yeah, okay.
We've been dreaming about this next story fairly regularly for a while now here on Tech Talk. Domestic robots. They were promised by Hanna-Barbera in their Jetson cartoons of the 1960s. And for one here at Tech Talk, we will not rest until they're as common as the kettle in every home. Matt, what's the latest update on this front? Can we buy ourselves Rosie yet, please?
Oh, we're getting closer and closer and closer, but not quite there yet. Neo Gamma is a new humanoid robot developed by 1X Technologies for
See, that
home
sounds
use.
like Rosie to me.
It does, doesn't it? A humanoid robot developed for home use. Sounds like it's getting close, but it's not quite there yet in terms of being able to do all the things that we would like Rosie to do. Cooking breakfast for us, cleaning up the clothes off the floor.
So you're going to tell
washing.
me that this robot just plays the radio and it's got some arms.
Well,
is that where we're going?
It probably does a little bit more than
Okay,
that, but
right.
not quite where I'm at. And the pricing at this stage is still a bit expensive, but the whole market is going to explode. The estimation is that the home robotics market, home robotics market will be worth $350 billion a year by the year 2030. So obviously some other people out there are lazy like me and want someone to do the hard work around the home for them. I thought that's why we had kids, so they could do the work around the home, but it seemed like they generated more work for us as parents.
Well, there'll be a time when the kids have got to be the ones who are telling the robot what to do.
Well, I hope so. At least, go and look after Dad would be the process I would have thought. So the Neo Gamma is not just designed for chores, though. Maybe a bit of cleaning around the home. It can do a bit of that, some of the basic things. But it's also designed for companionship. And so this might be great if you've got someone in your life that might be living by themselves now, maybe grandpa or grandma's by themselves now. Maybe they haven't moved into an aged care facility. So this will offer conversation, offer tutoring abilities. How do I do this thing on my phone? Here, I'll show you, Grandma, how to do that. So a whole range of things there, but it just seems like it's taking us a long time, James. We've got robots in factories that can do the same thing over and over and over very well, but we just don't seem to have robots in general use in our home. I've been in restaurants where a robot has brought out plates or picked up plates after they've been used, but even that, they've got a program path they will follow, so they've got certain things. They're not really, hi, how was your meal? Let me take those plates off there. Hey, you didn't eat your carrots. Get eating your carrots, big boy. So there's sort of the same sort of things that I'd like to see. But have a look at it. Neo Gamma is getting there closer. There was a Neo Beta that came out last year, but they've now come out with Neo Gamma, which is basically getting one step closer.
Yeah,
I'm not at the
one
point,
step closer. That's the important thing there.
Yeah, and I'm not at the point I'm going to buy Neo Gamma yet. I do want to buy one when we can finally get to that stage where I can say this is it, because I'd love to be here doing the podcast one day and in comes our humanoid robot, brings us our drinks at half time or something. So we're getting there. We're getting there slowly, but we're not quite there yet.
One thing I've noticed in my travels around the world is that very, very rarely will you come across a live bear in a Mexican restaurant. As it turns out, bears hate chili, or rather the chemical that makes chili so hot, to be specific, and that's why they make it an active ingredient in bear spray. Now, lately around the Tibetan Plateau, that's the Tibetan Plateau, folks, bears have been causing some real headaches for the locals. So, in an effort to protect people, livestock and property from bears, locals have enlisted some capsaicin. I think I've said that wrong. Hang on, capsaicin, I think. Ooh, let me just say it. They've enlisted some capsaicin-wielding AI as bear diversion strategies. Now, how's that working out, Matt?
Yeah, not too bad. I actually always said capsaicin. I thought the CIN at the end.
No, I think it's a
sin,
soft
is it?
C.
Yeah,
yes.
right, okay. So
Capsaicin, that's it, capsaicin. I practiced it and practiced it before.
Good work.
And I dropped it in the intro.
Ignore my pronunciation completely. The crucial part here is not so much the components they use in the bear spray, but it's the way they're delivering it. And that's what I thought was pretty impressive about this. It's got an AI system, and they trained this AI system with over 1,000 images. 600 of those images were bears. But then there's other wildlife in the Tibetan areas where they're using this, such as yaks, antelopes, and even humans hanging around. I don't know that I want to be there when I get a spray of capsaicin.
Well done.
Good work, thank
exactly,
you.
yes.
As I walk past minding my own business. And so at this stage, they've got to the point where they can leave this device unattended. They need to come back about once a month and just change the batteries out. So the batteries, I thought they might have had some sort of solar panel to charge the batteries up, but at this stage, replace the batteries.
And maybe the canister of capsaicin as well.
And maybe if it's used a bit. And basically, at this stage, they're getting about a 93.6% success rate on identifying bears and not bears. So that's a bit of bad luck for either the ones that are getting sprayed that aren't bears or the bears that are getting away with it. So I wasn't sure, when I read that stat, I wasn't sure whether or not that was
particularly hairy guy that walks past every morning on his way to get the paper.
That's right. Now, at this stage, there's a 1.8% chance of spraying a person. I don't want to be in that 1.8%. So that's interesting. But we are getting so much better with our AI detection of things now. So you could put some spray out there and you have some motion sensors. That's one level of technology. Anything that goes past, you get sprayed. So whatever you want to keep away from that area, it's going to get sprayed. But that's not great.
It's going to keep everything away.
That's right. Not great for the other wildlife that you're okay
Yeah, and if you've got
that area.
livestock and you've got, goats or cattle that wander past.
Yeah. What is interesting is that the International Union for Conservation of Nature, spokespeople from there have said this is great because bears are smart enough to learn to stay away from that. So they get one little spray and they go, I ain't going back there again because that stung the eyes a bit. So that's the important part here.
And I wonder if you can then put some decoy sort of stations around the place that look like it but aren't functional and have the same effect.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, the good news is that in the past what they've used has been ranges with rubber bullets. So that doesn't sound like great if I'm a bear that I get hit with a rubber bullet.
Yeah.
And presumably the rangers are pretty good at identifying humans from bears, so there's probably not too many mistaken
What's the
identities
success
there.
rate on that? Still 1.8% for getting hit if you're a human?
Hope not.
A particularly hairy guy.
but we are getting better. I mean, we interact with nature a lot, and interacting with bears doesn't sound like it's good fun for anyone. But having some AI tool that makes sure we're getting it right, and again, maybe we're getting it closer to 100%, but getting it right most of the time is not a bad thing. And again, we can deploy lots of these in areas we want to use them rather than using up lots of human resources. So one strike against the Tibetan bears and one strike for humans in those areas living a peaceful life away from the bears, hopefully.
And I wonder if there are any other animals that we could possibly keep away that you're not really keen on having too.
Well, our solution in Australia many years ago was just a big fence, wasn't it? Let's go and build a big fence across Australia and that'll solve the problem until you get a little hole in it, and then maybe that wasn't such a good solution
Does
after
it
all.
work on abominable snowmen?
Well, obviously, because I haven't seen any of those around lately.
Yeah, good point. More and more in technology, we are completely rethinking mechanics of how to get things done. It's what true innovation is all about after all. So computing up to this point has all been about getting electrons to jump through hoops and do cool tricks for us. But the age of the electron may be coming to an end soon, and its usurper is the humble photon of light. Photonic computing is fast becoming the new black in technology. Matt, what's photonic computing got that traditional processors don't got?
Is that how you explain it to your students, that electrons just jump through hoops and do wonderful things for us?
Well, we don't talk a lot about microprocessors these days, but that's how I would if I had to.
Good. That makes perfect sense to me.
Watch it do tricks.
But it is interesting, isn't it? You are getting electrons to move along, and that takes energy. You need to get them to move from A to B. You get them to do lots of things along the way,
I've got
switches.
to move through a conductor.
That's exactly right. And that produces heat and creates or uses energy to get from A to B. One of our problems we know that we've got at the moment, or we think we've got at the moment, is AI takes an incredible amount of power to do all the things that we're working on. If I give a really round number example, we talk about OpenAI, the owners of ChatGPT. In a short time, an incredible short amount of time, they're producing about $3 billion worth of revenue. Fantastic. The problem is that it costs about $5 billion to run OpenAI because of the computing power that's needed. So even though I'm blown away by how quickly a company can start turning over that kind of money, it takes a lot of money to run it. And that's, again, mainly the cost of setting up all those servers, all the computing power, and then running it all, which takes an incredible amount of electricity. the next step in AI computing, and I don't think we'd drive it this way if we didn't need that processing power for AI. But the next step in AI computing is not about using electrons, but using light. So as you said, a photon is a bit easier to move around. Well, when I say easier to move around, it's less power to move it around. It's probably more accurate. It's a bit trickier to move around, but you've got light computing. So there's a team called Light Intelligence or Light E Intelligence, and they've got a machine that's called PACE. Now, they've managed to cut down latency in this as well as reduce the amount of power, incredibly the amount of power that they need to actually run a processor. Now, they haven't got to the point where they can produce the supercomputers, the servers we might need to run AI yet, but this is the next big step, the next big wave, I think, in computing power. Quantum is still some way away. Everyone talks about quantum as being the next revolution. It will be when we finally get it right, but I'm just not sure how far away we are from actually having a quantum computer that we play with on our desktop at the moment. But light computing is a bit different. And so if you can use light to basically, and let's go back one step, in a microprocessor, we've got lots of yeses and nos, lots of ones and zeros.
Open gates and closed gates and whatnot, yeah.
That's right. And that's how we're doing things in a computer. But by having electrons move through and basically go through those gates, that's where we're using that power. But if you could use light to do that instead, you can still have the same process in terms of a yes or a no, a one or a zero, a gate that's open or closed, but using light to go through there, because you're not driving anything. With electron, you're not driving something, you're just trying to get to an end solution. You can use light to do the same thing. It sounds...
Yeah, we're not giving off heat as it crashes into atoms and things.
Well, a few things there. You're not giving off heat. That's fantastic, but it's also less energy to move a photon than it is to move an electron.
Yeah.
So that's better from that perspective. And most people are vaguely familiar with light. We've got fibre optic cables. People are listening to this now only through the power of fibre optics. Somewhere in what we're talking about now to where the person that's listening to this right now is hearing this, there has been some fibre optic cable, I guarantee, to get to that point, because there's so much fibre optic used across the world at the moment. And we know that's great because we can go a longer distance without needing to reboost that or reprocess that. We know we can use it quickly to get from one point to another, and that's all light, which is quite incredible. When you look at fibre optic cable, it's quite small when it goes around corners, and light's still being used for all of that. So we're kind of vaguely familiar with light being used, and we're using light, turning it on and off to basically transmit that. Take all that and condense that out in a processor. That's probably the simplest way I can think of how this happened. So we're getting there slowly, but I think this is going to be the next big revolution in our microprocessors. Quite incredible.
New world, a brave new world. Drawing inspiration from the Star Wars universe and its BB-8 droid, Samsung have brought us Ballie. That's the name, Ballie, folks. It's past the prototype phase and it's now commercially available. It's pitched as an AI companion designed to make its way about your home or workplace, interacting through voice and visual data. Sounds like fun, sort of a cross between a soccer ball, a puppy dog and a personal assistant, Matt.
That's probably the best way to describe it. It is a ball that rolls around your home. It can help you with things. It won't bring you a cup of tea.
Will it make cute noises like the BB-8? I hope so.
If you asked it to, I'm sure it would, if you wanted to make cute noises just like BB-8.
But it won't bring the cup of tea, you say?
It won't bring a cup of tea. It won't pick up the clothes off the floor. But again, this is really focused on being an AI tool that just goes around the house with you.
It's a mobile Alexa.
A mobile Alexa, that's exactly it. You don't have to sit down at your computer to look up things. You don't have to go to a certain spot in the house and have that conversation with your assistant, but you can just...
This has got a projector, so if it needs to show you something, it can cast it onto a blank wall.
I like that as well. So, look, can you just give me a picture of that, how light processing might work in a processor? Sure, here you go. I'll just project that onto whatever the closest wall is or wherever somewhere is. So we're getting there with these different things that are going to help us around the home, whether that be a humanoid robot or something that rolls around the home and helps us out. But a lot of it does come down to companionship. And I must admit, I'm guilty of it. If I'm in the car sometimes and I'm going to somewhere where I need to have some information, I'll have a chat with ChatGPT in the car, obviously hands-free, and just have a conversation back and forth. And I do feel like I'm talking to someone. It sounds sad, but I do feel like I'm having a conversation. And then I'll question, hold on, if that happens, then what about if this happens? Good question, Matthew. We'll come back, ChatGPT. So I feel like I'm having a conversation with a very intelligent person beside me in the car And we go through that process. So
And you can have Ballie chasing you around the house or the
exactly
the
right.
office.
Doing that and giving you
Doing just
information. Hey, I need to meet with James next week at 2:00. Can you book that on my calendar? Sure thing, Matthew. I'll go and do that for you now. So you get to that point where the line between humans and other non-human objects,
Yeah.
whether it be a chatbot, whether it be a physical device, whether it be a humanoid robot that has a chat to you, the lines are getting very blurred. And how do you distinguish between them? Probably because the humanoid robots or the Ballies probably know more than my friends. So maybe that's one way of doing it. Maybe they'll laugh at my jokes more than my friends. So that's probably a good thing as well. So this is another one of these things. I don't know who's going to win the race. Sometimes when you see new technology coming out, you think, I wonder if I could just jump forward and work out who the winner is going to be of this.
Yeah. What is really going to catch hold?
And then buy shares in that particular company, whichever one's got the one that's going to progress the furthest. So I don't know where the winner's going to be.
There's definitely something cool about Ballie.
There is.
Yeah.
And what's going to be the final solution here? Is it going to be some type of humanoid robot or just wire the entire house so that you can just talk to your friend in the other
if
world?
he's connected to the house, he can turn your lights on, he can turn on air conditioners or change the thermostat on the air conditioner. You can do all that sort of stuff.
Yep. And that all works great in the demo houses, but trying to retrofit, that's a bit of a problem as well. So everyone needs to knock down their house and build it again from scratch because you need all these things built from the ground up. Sometimes you can retrofit them as well, but yeah, it's a scary world out there, isn't it, in terms of where we're headed with all this. And exciting.
It's
Scary
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah,
That's right.
really, really exciting. And we look forward to hearing more about that sort of stuff in future episodes. That's all for another episode here, though, of Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Pack 'em, rack 'em and stack 'em, boys. We're out of here. Thanks for another cracking Tech Talk, Matt.
I'm never going to be able to go to the toilet again, without focusing on my wee and just looking at where that's going. It's stuck in my head now.
For the mist. That's right. Or maybe putting down some Glad wrap just to see if you can catch some spray there to see just exactly what you've been sending everywhere
And then
all this time.
I feel guilty about these people that I see cleaning up in a public facility going, I'm contributing to that splashback. So I'm going
you only have to step up onto the step at the wall urinal to realise, splashback is a real thing.
Maybe I'm going to be a sitter now. Maybe I'm going to start going to the toilet, sitting down all the time. It's changed my perception.
Or just hold it in.
Forever.
I just can't wait to get one of these Ballies. I think, for the person who's got everything, I reckon that makes an excellent present. And I'm sure that if I drop enough hints now,
That's right, get ready for
Father's
Christmas.
Day comes up in September. My birthday's in October. Christmas, December. There's plenty of time for people to get themselves organised.
Right, get cracking now. Start those fundraisers.
And thank you, folks, for tuning into another Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Shooting the breeze is always so much better with you guys around. I've been your host, James Eddy, and all things being equal, I'll be your host next week as well when we bring you another episode chock full of stories from just a little bit beyond the horizon. Until then, take care, and we'll see you when we see you.